Ethan Lewis walked carefully over the rocky ground of Zirion 7. He had traveled far from Earth, along with a small team of explorers, to map this distant planet. The sky was a strange mix of orange and green, and the air was thin and cool. Every step made a soft crunch as his boots touched the sharp stones. Beside him, Clara Bennett examined her scanner, her brow furrowed as she studied the signals. They were in a remote area, far from the main settlement of the alien village they had discovered 2 days ago. Ethan paused and looked up. In the distance, he saw movement near the glowing river. Small shapes moved in playful patterns. As they got closer, Ethan realized they were children. Small alien children with smooth, pale skin that shimmered slightly in the unusual light. Their feet were bare, touching the cold stones and the warm sand along the riverbank. One child, a little girl, caught Ethan's attention. She had long, dark hair that fell in waves across her back. Her small feet were scraped and dusty, and she was shivering despite the warmth of the morning sun. She looked up at him with large, curious eyes, and for a moment, Ethan felt a tug at his heart. He knew he could not ignore her discomfort. Clara noticed him staring. "Ethan," she said quietly, "are you thinking what I think you are?" Ethan nodded. "I have to do something." He removed his own shoes slowly. The leather was worn from travel, but still sturdy. He knelt down and offered them to the little girl. Her eyes widened in surprise. She hesitated, looking at the shoes and then at Ethan's face. Slowly, she reached out and took them. The shoes were too large for her small feet, but she smiled, slipping them on as best she could. Her tiny toes peeked out from the edges, but the smile on her face made Ethan feel warmth that the sun could not provide. The other children gathered around, staring in amazement. One of them giggled and pointed at the girl. Ethan felt a wave of emotion. He had never expected such a simple act to mean so much. Clara watched silently, understanding without words the significance of what had just happened. The little girl, who Ethan learned was called Lena, looked up at him and whispered something he did not understand. Her voice was soft, but it carried a note of trust and gratitude. Ethan simply smiled and nodded, unsure if she could understand his words, but hoping she felt the kindness behind them. The rest of the day passed in a quiet, unusual peace. Ethan and Clara explored the area around the river, taking samples and noting the unusual plants and stones. Lena followed them at a distance, careful but curious. Ethan found himself glancing back often, seeing her small form moving among the rocks. Her new shoes slightly too big, but held together by her determination to keep them on. As evening came, the sky shifted to a deeper shade of orange and shadows stretched across the land. Ethan and Clara set up their small camp, a simple shelter of metal and fabric. Lena approached again, carrying a small bundle of glowing stones. She placed them near the campfire, stepping back with a shy bow. Ethan looked at Clara, and they shared a look of quiet understanding. This gesture, small as it was, meant that Lena and her people were acknowledging them in a way that humans rarely experienced with other species. That night, Ethan lay in his sleeping pod, staring at the faint light from the alien sky through the thin walls of the shelter. He could not stop thinking about Lena and the children by the river. Their trust was fragile but real, and he felt a responsibility he had not expected. Giving her the shoes had been simple, but he sensed that it was the start of something much larger than he could yet imagine. Outside, the wind whispered through the alien trees, carrying a faint glow from the stones Lena had left by the campfire. The quiet hum of the planet seemed to pulse with life, and Ethan realized that he had stepped into a world where the small acts of kindness might change everything. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility and the strange hope that had entered his heart that day. Clara stirred beside him. "Ethan," she said softly, "do you think they understand us yet?" He shook his head slightly. "Not fully. But they understand something. That counts for a lot." He paused, thinking of Lena and the shoes. Sometimes even the smallest gesture can make a bridge between worlds. The night deepened and the two humans drifted into sleep, unaware of the eyes that watched them from the shadows of the trees. Lena, her small form barely moving, stood silently, her bare feet now in the shoes Ethan had given her, glowing faintly in the moonlight. In her village, elders spoke quietly among themselves, noting the unusual presence of humans and the strange bond forming with the young girl. They whispered words of caution and words of hope, understanding that the coming days would be shaped by this small, seemingly insignificant act. Ethan dreamed of the stars that night, of planets and civilizations, of faces like Lena's looking up at him with trust and expectation. He did not know what the future held, but he felt ready to face whatever came next, armed with empathy and courage, and the simple truth that kindness could be a powerful weapon in a universe full of unknowns. Morning arrived slowly. The first light crept over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Ethan woke to a soft sound, almost like the gentle rustle of fabric against stone. He opened his eyes and saw Lena standing at the edge of the camp, her small shoes illuminated by the rising sun. She looked at him with quiet confidence, a silent message that the world was about to change, and that he had already begun that change with a simple act of giving. He smiled, feeling a sense of anticipation he could not explain. The day had just begun, but he knew it would be different. Something was shifting in the air, a current of respect and connection flowing between humans and the alien children, and through them, to the larger forces of the world they had only begun to understand. Ethan rose, ready to step into the unknown, carrying the memory of a small barefoot girl in the shoes that had started something far greater than anyone could see. The morning sun rose over Zirion 7, casting warm orange light across the strange landscape. Ethan Lewis woke to the soft sound of leaves moving in the wind. The night had been quiet, but he felt a sense of tension in the air, like something important was about to happen. He stretched and looked toward the edge of the camp where he saw Lena standing. Her shoes, which he had given her the day before, glowed faintly in the morning light. She looked at him and gave a small nod. Clara Bennett, who had been awake for some time, joined him. "Ethan, look," she said, pointing toward the river. The village of aliens was quiet, almost too quiet. The usual sounds of children laughing and elders speaking softly were missing. Ethan frowned. Something was different today. Lena stepped forward and gestured for Ethan to follow her. He exchanged a glance with Clara, who shrugged and said, "Let's see where she leads." Together they followed the small girl down a winding path through glowing moss and strange, twisted trees. The path led to the village center, a wide clearing surrounded by tall structures made of shiny, crystal-like materials. When they arrived, Ethan noticed that the elders of the village had gathered. One of them, a tall figure with silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly, stepped forward. Ethan had learned her name was Tarnok, one of the village leaders. She looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Tarnok spoke slowly in broken English, each word carefully chosen. "Human, be kind, understand honor, understand heart. You give shoes, show respect." Ethan nodded, unsure if he fully understood her words, but he could feel the meaning behind them. The simple act of giving had carried weight far beyond what he had imagined. Clara whispered, "Ethan, I think this is bigger than we thought. They are treating your gesture like a serious honor." Ethan nodded quietly, watching as the villagers whispered among themselves. Even the children seemed to move with a new awareness, looking at him not as a stranger but as someone who had shown them care. Lena stepped closer, her eyes shining with a quiet pride. She spoke softly, but Ethan could feel her meaning. She wanted him to understand that humans and their village now shared a connection, one that might influence not just her people, but the larger alien community. The thought was both exciting and frightening. The humans had only been on this planet for a short time, yet a small act had already begun to shape the future. The day moved slowly. Ethan and Clara were invited to observe the village's routines. They watched as the aliens worked together to collect food from the glowing plants near the river. Ethan noticed the care with which they handled the fragile resources, and Clara took notes, recording details about the plants and their uses. Lena stayed close to Ethan, guiding him and offering small signs of approval when he moved carefully around the delicate environment. By midday, Ethan realized that he was learning more from these aliens than he had expected. Their society was organized and cooperative, built on respect for each member, no matter how small or young. Lena, though a child, had a voice that mattered. Her position among the villagers was unusual for someone her age, and Ethan felt honored to witness it. As the sun began to set, Tarnok called a meeting. The elders gathered around Ethan and Clara, their faces serious but not hostile. They spoke in broken English, explaining that their village was part of a larger fleet of alien civilizations spread across the galaxy. These civilizations had never encountered humans before, and their first impression would shape how humans were treated in the future. Ethan felt a weight on his shoulders. He had never imagined that a simple act of giving shoes could have such far-reaching effects. Tarnok continued, explaining that the gesture had shown human empathy and courage, qualities the aliens respected deeply. Lena had carried the story of Ethan's kindness to the other villages, and now leaders across the region were aware of humanity's potential. Clara turned to Ethan and whispered, "This is incredible. You didn't just help one child. You started a connection that might change the galaxy." Ethan nodded, feeling both proud and anxious. The future was uncertain, but he knew that kindness had opened a door that might otherwise have remained closed. That night, the humans were invited to a small ceremony in the village. Lena stood at the center, her small frame proud and confident. She presented Ethan with a small glowing stone, a symbol of the village's respect and trust. Ethan accepted it with both hands, feeling the warmth of their approval. The ceremony ended with the villagers singing a soft, melodic song that filled the air with a sense of peace and unity. Ethan and Clara listened, feeling the bond that had formed not just with Lena but with the entire community. The humans realized that they had become part of something greater, a bridge between species built on simple human compassion. As they returned to their camp, Ethan reflected on the day's events. He understood that the galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, but he also realized that small acts could ripple across worlds. By giving his shoes to Lena, he had created a connection that could influence decisions and actions on a scale he had never imagined. Clara smiled at him. "Tomorrow will be another day. We'll learn more and maybe we can help even further." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of hope. The bond with Lena and her people was fragile, but it was real, and it had the power to change the way humans were seen in this distant part of the universe. That night, Ethan lay in his pod, the glowing stone from Lena beside him. He thought of the alien village, the river, and the small girl who had shown him that even the simplest gestures could carry the weight of respect and trust. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of distant stars, new friends, and the growing understanding that humans were not just travelers, but potential partners in the larger universe. The morning light stretched across Zirion 7, casting long shadows from the crystalline structures of the alien village. Ethan Lewis and Clara Bennett woke to a quiet hum that seemed unusual. Something had changed overnight. Lena was already up, moving carefully through the camp, her small shoes tapping softly on the ground. She paused when she saw Ethan and gestured for him to follow her. The path led to a clearing where the elders of the village had gathered. Tarnok, the tall, silver-skinned leader, was at the center, speaking urgently to the group. Ethan and Clara approached cautiously. Tarnok noticed them and nodded in recognition. Ethan stepped forward. "What is happening?" he asked. Tarnok's eyes glowed faintly as she spoke in slow English. "Threat coming. Warships, many, close, dangerous. Humans must understand." Ethan felt a chill. They had just begun to build trust with this community, and now a new danger approached. Clara looked at the readings from their scanner. "She's right. The signals show a fleet approaching from beyond the planet's edge. They are armed and moving fast." Ethan swallowed hard. The humans were far from home, with limited support. Yet the aliens were counting on them in some way. He glanced at Lena, who stood quietly beside Tarnok, her expression serious despite her youth. Her presence reminded Ethan that their connection had meaning, and that this threat was not just for them, but for the entire community they had grown close to. Tarnok continued. "Leaders of fleet want control. Conquer planets. Zarion 7 next. Humans and village must prepare. Unite, survive." Ethan nodded. The situation was urgent and time was short. He knew that fear could not guide them. They needed strategy, courage, and understanding of the alien people. The elders spoke among themselves, debating the best approach. Some were unsure if humans could be allies. Others, influenced by Lena and the story of the shoes, believed that humans brought honor and empathy that could sway others. Ethan realized that their perception of humanity could change the outcome of what was about to happen. Clara spoke quietly to Ethan. "We need a plan. If we can combine their technology with our knowledge, maybe we can show the fleet that violence is not the only way." Ethan agreed, but he knew convincing multiple alien species would not be simple. Still, he felt the weight of responsibility and the importance of his earlier actions. The trust they had built might be the key to survival. They returned to the camp to gather their equipment and prepare. Lena helped Ethan understand the village's defensive structures and communication methods. Ethan marveled at the precision and organization of the aliens. Even the smallest members of the community had tasks that contributed to the safety of the group. Lena, despite her youth, guided him and Clara with quiet authority, proving that respect could cross species boundaries. Throughout the day, scouts returned with more information about the approaching fleet. Ethan and Clara observed the massive armada from a distance, their sensors picking up ships that stretched far beyond the horizon. The humans had never seen anything like it. The ships were enormous, dark and ominous, with strange weapons that glowed faintly in the sky. Yet the village remained calm, trusting that the humans could help guide their decisions. Tarnak called another meeting. Ethan and Clara joined her at the center of the village. "Humans," she said, "show ways to prepare. Others listen. Your courage, your heart can lead." Ethan nodded. The task was daunting. They needed to combine human knowledge with alien technology to create a strategy that could influence not just the village, but the approaching fleet. The humans worked with the village scientists, learning how their ships moved, how their weapons functioned, and how communication was handled across the fleet. Ethan suggested ways to enhance defense systems using principles humans had applied in space travel. Clara organized data and created maps showing possible positions and responses to different threats. Lena stood by, observing and occasionally offering insight that surprised even the elders. As night fell, Ethan and Clara sat by the campfire, exhausted but focused.
"Ethan, do you think this connection we've built will be enough?"
Clara asked softly. Ethan looked at the glowing stones Lena had given them and nodded. "It has to be. If the aliens trust us and if we can show the fleet that humans are honorable, maybe they will listen, or at least hesitate." They shared a quiet moment, understanding that the coming days would test courage, intelligence, and the simple bond that had started with a pair of shoes. The next morning, scouts reported that the fleet was much closer. Ethan and Clara watched as hundreds of ships filled the sky, their dark silhouettes casting shadows over the land. The aliens moved with precision, their fleet aligning in formation, ready for whatever action the humans would advise. Ethan realized that trust and respect, the small act of kindness shown to Lena, had given them influence. They now had a chance to guide the outcome, perhaps even prevent a battle that could destroy the planet. Tarnak approached Ethan, her glowing eyes steady. "Humans lead. Show honor. Teach fleet humans not weak. Teach respect." Ethan felt the weight of the responsibility. He knew that failure could mean death or conquest for the entire community, yet he also felt hope. The small gestures they had made had built a bridge, and now they could use it to shape the future. The aliens prepared defensive measures, guided by Ethan's understanding of strategic principles. Clara helped coordinate signals and communication, ensuring that every action was deliberate and precise. Lena, still small but commanding respect, helped keep the community organized, showing that leadership could come from unexpected places. Ethan watched her and realized that courage, respect, and empathy were as powerful as any weapon. The day ended with a tense silence. The fleet was on the horizon, and the village was ready. Ethan and Clara understood that the next hours would test everything they had learned and every bond they had created. Yet despite fear and uncertainty, Ethan felt a quiet determination. They had the power of trust, connection, and simple human compassion on their side. As night fell, Ethan lay down to rest. He thought of Lena and the story of the shoes, of the bond that had grown between humans and aliens. Tomorrow the Armada would arrive, and the humans would see if empathy, courage, and honor could hold back the shadow of war. The weight of the task was heavy, but Ethan knew that the small act that had started it all had also prepared them for this moment. They were ready to face whatever came next, together with their new friends, guided by the simple but powerful lesson that respect could cross any boundary, even between stars. The first light of Zarian 7's sun stretched across the horizon, turning the sky shades of pink and orange. Ethan Lewis woke to a soft hum, different from anything he had heard before. He stepped out of the camp and saw Lena standing at the edge of the clearing, her small shoes glowing faintly in the morning light. She looked at him and nodded, a silent signal that the day had begun. Clara Bennett joined him, scanning the horizon. The reports from the scouts were clear. The alien armada had arrived. Hundreds of ships filled the sky, stretching beyond where their eyes could see. Ethan swallowed hard. The fleet was massive, dark, and imposing, yet there was an unusual stillness to it. The ships were not attacking. They hovered, waiting as if they were watching the humans and the village. Tarnak approached, her silver skin glinting in the morning sun. Human, today actions speak. Show honor, show courage. Fleetwatch, listen, understand humans. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. The bond that had started with a pair of shoes had led to this day. Now humanity's small gesture had the attention of an entire armada. The village moved with precision. The aliens positioned their ships and defensive units following Ethan's guidance. Clara helped coordinate the signals between ships and ground units. Lena stood nearby, giving quiet commands and organizing the younger members of the village. Ethan realized that respect could be learned, passed on, and that even small hands could guide many. As the armada hovered over the planet, Ethan stepped forward onto a small hill that overlooked the valley. His heart beat fast, but his mind was steady. He raised his hand in a simple gesture of peace. The ships remained still. Ethan felt a strange connection. The aliens, leaders of the fleet, were observing carefully, trying to understand the humans. He spoke slowly, knowing the words might be understood in fragments. We come in peace. We are not here to fight. We respect life. We value honor and trust. The words seemed small against the vast fleet, but something shifted. He saw movement in the closest ships. One lowered slightly, signaling attention. Others followed. The silence was heavy, but it was not fear, it was respect. Clara looked at him, eyes wide. Ethan, it's working. They are listening. Ethan nodded. He could feel the bond with Lena and her people spreading outward, touching even those who had never met humans before. A wave of pride and hope washed over him. The simplest act, a gift of shoes, had opened a bridge between species, and now that bridge extended to the fleet above them. Lena stepped forward beside Ethan, her small form brave and confident. She raised her hand, mirroring his gesture, and the aliens responded with a soft, synchronized hum. It was their way of acknowledging respect. Ethan realized that actions could speak louder than words and that empathy could move even the most powerful forces. The minutes passed slowly, but the tension eased. The armada remained in the sky, not attacking, not retreating. Ethan and Clara worked with the village elders to signal peace and trust, combining human gestures with alien customs. Each movement, each word, each glance carried meaning across the species divide. By midday, the fleet began to lower further, as if bowing. The aliens from other planets, leaders of warships known for their ferocity, now recognized the humans as beings of honor. Ethan watched, astonished, as hundreds of ships synchronized their positions, forming a pattern of respect in the sky. It was as if the galaxy itself had paused to watch this simple act of kindness ripple into something far greater. Clara whispered, "Ethan, look at them. They are honoring us." Ethan nodded, feeling a deep sense of awe. He thought back to the first day when he had given his shoes to Lena. Who would have thought that such a small gesture could carry such weight? The villagers celebrated quietly. Lena, standing beside Ethan, smiled. She had been the link between humans and her people, guiding respect, showing courage, and proving that even the smallest member of a community could influence great events. Ethan felt a surge of gratitude. Humanity had shown empathy, courage, and humility, and in return the galaxy had acknowledged them. The day ended with the fleet still in formation, a symbol of unity and respect. Ethan, Clara, and Lena watched from the hill, knowing that their actions had changed perceptions, not just on this planet, but across the stars. They had shown that humans were capable of compassion, leadership, and honor, and that even the simplest gestures could ripple through the universe. As night fell, Ethan sat by the campfire with Clara, reflecting on the day. "I never imagined it would be like this," he said softly. Clara nodded. "It's more than we could have hoped. Trust, respect, courage, that's more powerful than any weapon." Ethan agreed. The bond with Lena, the trust of the village, and the respect of the Armada were reminders that humanity's strength was not just in technology or firepower, but in empathy and honor. Lena joined them, holding a small glowing stone, a symbol of the day's events. Ethan took it with reverence. understanding that this moment would be remembered for generations, a testament to the power of small acts and the connections they could create. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, Ethan felt hope for the future, knowing that humans had proven their worth not through conquest, but through compassion, and that the universe had taken notice. The stars shone brightly over Zirion 7 as Ethan Lewis, Clara Bennett, and Lena stood at the edge of the village. The alien armada remained in the sky, their dark silhouettes a reminder of the power they could wield. Yet now, those same ships bowed in respect to the humans and their allies. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity had arrived, not through war, but through simple acts of kindness and understanding. The villagers moved around them with a quiet energy, repairing structures, tending to glowing plants, and preparing for the future. Lena walked beside Ethan, her small shoes glowing faintly in the starlight. She had become a symbol, not just to her people but to the armada above. Her courage and guidance had shown that even the youngest could influence the course of history. Ethan turned to Clara. "We did it," he said softly. Clara smiled, but her eyes reflected the seriousness of their achievement. "Not just us," she replied. "Lena and her people too. This is a new era, and we are only at the beginning." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Tarnok approached, her silver skin reflecting the starlight. She spoke slowly, choosing her words carefully. "Humans, honored, brave, teach others respect, together. Future bright." Ethan understood her meaning. The bond between humans and the alien village had created trust, and that trust had extended to the armada. Now possibilities that had seemed impossible were real. Over the next days, the village and the humans worked together to organize meetings with leaders of the armada. Ethan and Clara shared stories of Earth, explaining human values of empathy, courage, and cooperation. The aliens listened, their expressions serious, absorbing every word. They began to see humans not as weak creatures from a distant world, but as beings capable of influencing others through respect and understanding. Lena continued to guide her people, showing that leadership was not about age or size, but about wisdom and heart. She demonstrated small acts of kindness and bravery, reinforcing the lessons that Ethan had unknowingly begun with the gift of his shoes. The village flourished under this combined guidance, and the armada responded with increasing respect. As the days passed, the humans were invited to travel on some of the alien ships. Ethan and Clara observed the vast coordination required to maintain such a large fleet. They saw the potential for collaboration, not conflict, and began to suggest ways to improve communication and efficiency. The aliens were receptive, recognizing that humans could contribute in ways beyond combat. One evening, as the twin moons of Zirion 7 rose, Ethan, Clara, and Lena stood on a high ridge overlooking the valley. The armada had shifted into a new formation, one that symbolized peace and cooperation rather than intimidation. Ethan looked at Lena and smiled. "You've changed everything," he said. Lena shrugged, a small smile on her face. "We helped each other," she replied simply. Ethan realized that she was right. The connection had been mutual, and the respect shared had made them stronger together. The villagers held a ceremony to honor the humans. Ethan was given a small glowing stone, similar to the one Lena had given him before. It symbolized trust, courage, and unity. Clara received one as well, and together they placed them on a pedestal in the village center. Lena stood beside them, proud and confident, the symbol of hope and cooperation between humans and aliens. News of the humans' actions spread across the armada. Messages of respect and alliance traveled between ships and planets, showing that compassion and humility could command attention in a galaxy often ruled by power. Ethan and Clara realized that their journey had changed more than just one village. It had begun to influence entire civilizations. Ethan thought back to the day he had given Lena his shoes. A simple act, seemingly small and insignificant, had created a ripple that had touched countless lives. He understood now that true power came not from weapons or technology, but from understanding, respect, and empathy. As they watched the fleet slowly move into a formation that signaled allegiance rather than threat, Ethan felt hope. This was the beginning of a new era, where humans were no longer strangers in the galaxy but partners in a shared journey. Lena had shown that courage could come in small packages. And Ethan knew that the lessons they had learned together would resonate far beyond Zirion 7. The night deepened, and the village grew quiet. Ethan, Clara, and Lena sat together looking at the stars and imagining the future. They knew challenges would come, but they also knew that humanity had the ability to build bridges and create bonds that could withstand any storm. In the days that followed, humans and aliens continued to work together, exploring new planets, sharing knowledge, and learning from each other. The Armada, once a symbol of fear, became a symbol of unity. Ethan and Clara documented everything, knowing that their story would inspire future generations to act with courage, empathy, and respect. The gift of a pair of shoes had started it all, and now the galaxy was beginning to recognize the value of humanity. Ethan looked at Lena, proud of the small girl who had taught everyone that even the smallest acts could change the universe. Together, they had shown that compassion could command respect, and that humanity's true strength lay not in conquest, but in heart and honor.